Jumbo Mohicans and new listeners, welcome to the Magic Our Way podcast from New Orleans, Louisiana, in the United States of America. For this episode, we present a magical amusings episode in which we discuss the love of Figment. For this show, we have Danny, Eli, Lee, and myself, Kevin. How's everybody doing tonight?
We're doing good, man. We just saw Clerks 3.
Clerks 3, the latest Kevin Smith offering.
Now I'm depressed.
Yeah. We're ready to record. Got to see Kirk Landry. He's still quite upset about this mountain.
Speaking of feels, yeah, we got some feels with the movie, and then we got some feels from Kirk.
I think we might need to get Kirk some help. Somebody to talk to, any Mohicans out there that can do some crisis counseling.
Talk him down off the cliff.
Cajun crisis counseling.
Talk him off the Cypress knee.
That's right.
Bring your P-roll back down. It's okay.
Them Cajuns take their bayous very seriously, people. It's a real thing, but
put the crab net down.
Yeah.
Cool out, Kirk. Cool out.
Cool out.
But yes, no, having a great time. Got to see the movie. Huge Kevin Smith fan. A little dark and depressing.
Dark and depressing.
A little dark and depressing at times.
But then maybe we're of that age now, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, man. I didn't realize 50 I could die tomorrow. Like a lot, apparently. But hey, that happens, right?
It happens.
Just don't argue with your friend that bad. That's just more of that story.
Or no, just don't eat that much movies.
Yeah.
A
Well,
lot of movies.
those cow tippers look delicious, though.
I know. I'd like to have a cow tipper once in my life.
But we're getting off track as we
We are
normally
getting
do.
off track. Yes.
Let's talk some Disney.
Yeah, so this show that we're putting together, short little guy, comes from a discussion that we had on the Magic Our Way Pleasure Island Facebook group. If you're a member of, great, man, we'd love to hear your conversations. But actually, this was a post that Lee put up, right?
Yeah.
So, Lee, won't you give us a quick rundown for the listeners that maybe not have seen this post?
I've got it printed right here. I can read it, or if, you know.
Well, I was thinking maybe the original poster should maybe even read it.
I think his phone is attached to the thing. I don't think he can.
No, I have to only look this way.
Third wall!
way.
Fourth wall, my bad.
I can't turn my head.
I was going to say, you want me to hand you
No, I
this?
mean, I know what the gist of it.
Okay.
Wait, let me read it, because it was written very well.
Oh, he liked your writing.
All right.
All right.
Thank
You liked,
Thank
you was inspired.
Well, it was enough to make me say, well, maybe we need to talk about this, because you talked about the love of Figment, and there is clearly a lack of love for Figment, which is why I wanted to have this discussion. So Lee said, based on my Facebook feed, the biggest news from D23 is Figment being available for meet and greet. So, to all you Figment fans, why do you think this character is so popular? I know there are Disney fans that grew up with him, but I also think there are a lot of people, not anyone here, that like Figment because that's what you're supposed to do. Similar to Dole Whips, Mickey Bars, Carousel Progress, and so on. It's like you're not a true Disney fan unless you like these certain things. Thoughts, opinions.
Thoughts and prayers.
So
Yeah, so like I felt like sometimes in these discussions in these groups that if you don't like a certain thing at Disney, that you don't maybe not considered to be a true Disney fan. You know, it's like, oh, what do you mean you don't like Figment? Or, you know, what do you mean you don't like Dole Whips? Or, you know, oh, you've never ridden this, or you've never done that. And so you get this feeling that like, oh man, like, am I less of a Disney fan because I'm not going crazy for this purple dragon? You know?
No, I'm with you on that. I don't like that attitude. I don't. I also don't like lumping people in. There are people who are like that. There's no doubt about it. It's unquantifiable. A lot, a little, based upon how the number of Disney fans. Who knows? I don't know. I know they exist.
Right.
I wouldn't jump to, hey, there's this group of people out there, and that's the mindset. We like Figment simply because we're supposed to. It's classic Disney, and we're all about that. I wouldn't jump to that just yet. Although I would admit that I do agree that there probably is people who you know, my God, the people who have to do the Haunted Mansion spiel while you're standing there. It's like, thank you. We're here once a year. I'd like to kind of hear him do it, you know, that kind of thing.
I'm with you on that one.
So anyway, I thought it would be a fun little exercise to sit around here and go around the table and talk about our feelings towards Figment, because I was able to break this down really easily, and it came to me like immediately, and I almost started to respond to his post, but I was like, you know, I could just do it on the show. Why not just do it on the show?
We have the mics. We have the platform.
And we need material. So
Yeah, well, desperately.
Always need material.
So there are three reasons for me why I love Figment.
Uno, dos, tres.
I absolutely love Figment. Figment is one of my favorite characters. And I think talking to you about it maybe might help you understand a little bit better why people have an affiliation to Figment. Because I totally understand. I totally understand grouping Figment in with a lot of the other niche
Characters.
well, not characters, but things.
Icons.
Disney
Like
things.
Duffy.
Yes.
Oh,
No,
okay.
never Duffy.
I was like, wow.
They all about Duffy.
Get all the duff.
Yeah.
No, just like the Disney snobbish things.
Oh, yeah, I can't
he's
stand that.
referencing. Like, you know.
That's why the show exists.
Yes.
Can't stand them.
So, before I go, I mean, like, because, like, I know my three things right off the bat. I mean.
I know my reason, so.
Okay, so maybe we go reason for reason?
Well, I don't have three reasons, but I have one reason.
You have one reason? Why don't you go first? Because your reason is probably going to be one of my reasons.
The reason why I like Figment is purely nostalgic. I grew up with the character. I grew up with the original attraction. I grew up with Dreamfinder. It's always like a Laurel and Hardy thing. It's Dreamfinder and Figment. You know, you got the straight guy and the comic guy. And so I love the fact that he was an original character in the parks. You know, it's something you didn't see in the cartoons, at least back in the day. There wasn't as many cartoons back in the day as there are now. You know, they based Runaway Railway upon the new stuff. We didn't have that. We had like the Prince and the Pauper kind of movies, those kind of Mickey things that popped up every now and then. But yeah, my love, and I really like the character. I think the character is really, really cool. And the depth of my love goes with the story that original attraction was based off of. You know, it's all about your imagination. And Dreamfinder created this creature from his own imagination, from collecting bits and pieces of imagination things, and they all combine, and there he goes. He pops up in the back of the ship there, you know, which a lot of people nowadays probably wouldn't know because, of course, that ride has changed considerably since the first iteration. But as a young person, you know, it was kind of neat to see this. Oh, look, it's an actual figment of my imagination. Yeah. So that's what a figment looks like. Oh, cool. All right. It's a dragon. Neat. Or there could be, for my own, that's Dreamfinder's figment. Maybe my figment's a little different. I don't know. Maybe I had
Maybe your figment is Filipino.
My figment's brown. Who knows? Yeah.
You have a Filipino figment?
Or it could be a toilet. You might fix a talking toilet.
With wigs on it.
Is it in your bedroom?
Huh?
Is it in your
could
bedroom?
Be. Yeah, it could be all that. But it's but you know, there's just the possibilities. And then as you go through the attraction, yeah, he would pop up. But there was always this conversation between him and Dreamfinder, and you go through these different rooms and the different things that would spark your imagination, from the colors to the sounds to everything, which culminated into the last fun. I mean, the original attraction was such a great show in and of itself, just period. It was a great, great show. I remember long lines for that sucker.
That's what I was waiting for you to get to. You worked your way around to my number one reason, which is that the original journey into imagination was really, really, really good. If you're judging Figment by what you see now, this bad CGI character that farts in your face, I understand why you might not have an affinity. Like, why do people like this? This is awful. This is terrible. But that's not what Figment was. In fact, what they do with this new ride that I don't like, it's, Figment in imagination, whereas before it was the Imagination Pavilion, which was a tour through your imagination with Figment, but also with Dreamfinder. They were there. So he wasn't put front and center. He didn't have to carry the show. And so, yeah, in the new ride, he's kind of a pest. He's interrupting the tour. He's razzing Eric Idle. I mean, he comes across badly. He farts in your face. I mean, it's exactly
lay that
what
out.
it is.
Just lead off with that.
But in the original, he is not overdone. He's played just perfectly, and he's presented really, really, really well, in the sense that one of the things you got to remember about the original attraction, that original attraction was about 12 minutes long. When they redid it, they cut out half the ride, because when they redid it, they reimagined it on the cheap. So, because they were trying to get money out of Kodak, because God forbid Disney do it. So they redid it on the cheap, and they cut out half the ride. Just half of it was gone. So, but what you did have when you visited that original attraction, first you got this steampunk style dream ship that is going through the air, flying like a blimp. Yeah, sucking up ideas and creativity and stuff to be used for stories and things. And it was really cool to be introduced to the character like that. And you kind of see Figment emerged from that. He's born out of the ideas that Dreamfinder is finding in the ethos. I guess
in the song. Yeah, you hear it in the original song.
So, and then from there you go into this room, and in each of these rooms, when you go through that original ride, it's like a different realm of your imagination. Like there was one room dedicated purely to the arts. And so you would go into this like white paper jungle sort of thing where you had like paper trees and origami animals like in a carousel. But everything was white, but the whole room was lit with colors that were changing constantly. And it was just this beautiful thing. And I think Dreamfinder was painting with this big fiber optic brush. He was painting a mural or a painting or something like that. This huge painting. And Figment was like pouring a pot of rainbows into this water.
Puddle,
and it looked really, really cool. Then you go to the literature section and it gets ominous, and Dreamfinder's playing this organ, and out of the organ, all these words and ideas and stuff. And you see these books, and there are monsters popping out of the books, like, and Figment's trying to hold some of them back. There's really a cool scene where he's holding like these alphabet blocks that keep changing. And so if it says like cat, behind him projected as a cat, but then it like turns and it says bat, and now it's a bat behind him. It's like, it was a really cool little effect. Then you go to a theater. Now you're into the performing arts realm, and then you go to the space. I want to say, because they did science, like into how.
And what about science?
How your imagination influences technology. And then from there, like you end up with Figment, and he's looking at this video screen of all these different things that he could be, all these other different creative endeavors that he could follow, different aspects of himself that he could become. And it was a really, really cool ride. And none of the slapstick gags that didn't work, or still don't work, I should say, in the new attraction, it was played pretty straight. And it was meant to be uplifting. And Dreamfinder was every bit as a biggest part of that ride as Figment was, but really they were participating in what you were seeing. What you were seeing in the different realms of imagination, that was the star of the show. So I think that's what it was, is that Figment wasn't overexposed.
Just like what you mentioned about, just like Cars 2, when you make the comic relief the main character.
Exactly.
That's what they did with the new iteration.
It's like Will Ferrell. Like Will Ferrell is good in like small bit parts, but then sometimes you're like, I had enough of Will Ferrell.
Have you not seen Ricky Bobby?
Yeah, I like that one.
I was going to say Elf, he does a good job of being sentimental yet goofy, but
I mean, I'm sure that's part of it. I'm sure that's 100% where I don't connect with Figment, is that I've only seen the latest. I mean, I think when we went this last time was the first time I'd ever gone on that attraction.
Oh yeah, and it's a terrible show. It's a terrible, terrible show, especially when you know what used to come there. But to kids that way, and this is like my second reason why, and again, this touches on Kevin's other reason why. Kevin used the word nostalgia, but for me, it was like, you got to realize Figment at one point in time was the only character in Epcot.
Oh, okay.
He was a one-man show, unless you count the kitchen crackpots.
I would count.
I would count them, but like, you didn't walk away knowing their names necessarily.
No.
Figment, you knew. It was
I knew
center.
Bonnie Appetit.
He was in Bonnie Appetit.
Let's be honest with that.
Ham and eggs.
Ham
sure.
and eggs, yeah.
But they were like they had a bit part, and they were or they kind of
were
ran
gone,
through. Yeah. Figment was an animal come to life, and it was just like, it was the most kid-friendly part of the attraction, and the only meet and greet with a character there, and it was such an amazing meet and greet because Dreamfinder would be holding Figment, who'd be interacting with you, and like, how's that happening? You don't realize there's a fake arm there. As a kid, it just blew your mind. That dragon's moving and reacting to me, and it was the coolest thing, and the lines to see Dreamfinder were immense. Like, I remember waiting to go see that just to kind of interact with Figment, and it was so cool. So that's another part of it, is that really, man, as a kid, like, don't get me wrong, you're impressed by traveling to the future and horizons, and you're impressed by going to an underwater sea base, or I don't know, rotting on the land and seeing dinosaurs and energy, that kind of thing. You're impressed by that, but you're aware that the pre-shows, and it's so educational, and it feels like you're watching a student film at school, and it's like, this is Disney. This doesn't feel like Disney. Where's the fun? Where's the adventure? Figment and the imagination, it's the first storyline that kind of speaks directly to you as a kid. So World Showcase was boring. I mean, it really, the Epcot as a kid in the 80s, it was Figment or bust. So that's another reason why.
Well, to give you history for that, when that park first opened, there was a thing where they didn't want the Disney characters in there.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, that's still kind of going on today.
Yeah,
Not as much, but like there's people that are like, why are they bringing characters into to X-Men?
Oh, really? Yeah. I don't mind it so much that they bring them in, but that's how they opened it. And Figment came along and was like, oh, how cool!
I know.
Well,
it's
a Disney
different.
character, and they created it just for this.
I got one souvenir from Epcot. It was a stuffed Figment. That thing stood on my bed, and I remember I had it until his neck couldn't even hold up straight anymore. It just started kind of.
He was imagining it after a while.
Because I would always grab him by the neck because I'm a kid. I don't know better. He's a stuffed animal, and then his neck started going like that.
Now, was Dreamfinder and Figment a thing before Epcot, or were they created for Epcot?
They were created for. Well, they were really created for Discovery Bay, I believe it was. In
But I'm saying it wasn't like a movie that existed and they brought it into.
No.
It's totally unique.
It was a Tony Baxter creation.
Okay.
That was again intended for that, and I think the character of it was Professor Marvel or Mr. Marvel or something like that. Mr. Marvel, I can't remember what his name was. It was going to be for a show there with his little. And the dragon was green, wasn't even purple, and he was going to present a tour of, I guess, imagination or something like that. And they kind of redid it for Epcot. So no, they didn't exist before that. It was really original characters for Epcot. So yeah, Figment. That was it. Epcot was all Figment. When you were a kid in the '80s, it was like, let's not go to Epcot. Let's go see Figment. That's what Epcot was in the '80s. And then lastly, and this is another big reason. And I think this is something one of our listeners said, is that he's the embodiment of creativity as an artist that speaks to you. And as somebody who wasn't running around throwing a football or hitting a baseball or playing hoops much when I was a kid, who was always drawing and stuff like that, here's this character who's preaching creativity and imagination. And that is really more than anything. He's the artist's choice.
He's the spark. There. Yeah, I agree with you there.
He's so much so like he's the official mascot of the Festival of the Art. He's the unofficial mascot of Imagineering. Like if you have those books, like those Imagineering books that they put out, like the creative exercises they would have, they illustrated all with Figment.
Yeah, you had that book. I remember you had the little booklet of that.
It's
back
like
then. Yeah.
the Imagineering way, the Imagineering something, and so. Yeah, they all illustrated it with Figment because Figment is the unofficial mascot of Imagineering. The idea that, boom, even Marty Sklar, I want to say, entitled one of his books, Travels with Figment. Just because, and there's your head of Imagineering. So, I mean, Figment is a living, and if you're creative, if you live and breathe creativity and enjoy the arts, that's what Figment represented for you, an idea. He's kind of like, I know this is going way off the bend, but kind of like Santa Claus embodies Christmas, Figment embodied imagination and creativity.
It's fair. I could even make a leap further to say that when I first saw it, I didn't know all the history and everything, but I agree that the character was like a seed of imagination. But I attributed Figment to Lockheed, which is a small purple dragon that hangs out with Kitty Pryde from the X-Men.
Oh, I remember. Yes.
Yes. So I think this to add to why would someone like, I think it's also a visual thing because number one, dragons, when you think of a dragon, it's very like a huge, intimidating, breathing fire. So when you see a nice little cutesy version, especially purple, because that's a very rare color to see, doesn't really invoke any kind of really strong emotions, you know what I mean? Because it's still a color palette thing. People are like, that's cute. I mean, that's how I attributed to Figment when I first saw it. It's like, oh yeah, Lockheed's pretty awesome, small little dragon. And now look, they related now, see?
They family.
They all together.
Yeah.
There you go.
I must have like 2 or 3 Figment. Figment might be like the one character. If I was going to get a tattoo of a Disney character, it would be Figment. And yeah, I mean, because I couldn't go in and apply for a bank loan with a dopey tattoo. I just can't imagine that would work out too
I'll
well
pay
for
it
me.
back, maybe.
Oh, really? Let me look at that interest rate again. So, yeah, I think those are the 3 main reasons for me. So, nothing to do with the idea of nostalgia. It really came, and not nostalgia, I shouldn't say, nothing to do with the idea of feeling like I should love that animal. I mean, I remember that was one of the first rides that I couldn't wait to get back to when we went back for the Millennium, and to see what they did that attraction. It was like,
So there's not really any attractions that are that length right now, right? Like maybe Jungle Cruise. Like how long is Jungle Cruise, would you say?
It seems pretty quick.
Yeah, I don't know about 12 minutes, but it could be. We'd have to look that up.
I mean, nothing comes to like the top of my head.
No, no,
Everything's
I mean-
short attention span theater.
Well, a lot of those attractions back then were pretty
They were like
long.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
World
going
of
to say
Motion, Horizon,
energy. Oh my God, geez, and that one.
Spaceship Earth is still the same length.
Yeah,
Pirates?
Not 12 minutes, maybe.
It drags, it feels like, but
Oh, when
I've
the
never
boats get backed up at the exit.
Well, that's true. Thank you, Kev.
Yeah.
That's
6
what I'm
minutes.
talking about.
6 minutes to exit.
I know Small World feels like 12 minutes.
That definitely feels like 30 minutes.
Especially when the boats back up.
Yeah. So, I mean, that when you think about it that way, you're like, man, like that just doesn't exist anymore.
No, it really it doesn't. And
That type of entertainment or that thought process of entertaining people for 12 minutes.
No, and it's
And it should.
unfortunate because still to this day, I think people have, they do guest surveys and whatnot, and people are like, yeah, we want quick rides and thrill rides, and we want to be in and off it and done and moving on to maximize our time in the park. But then you ask people, what are your favorite rides? Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I don't
all-
think people
And perfectly crafted stories.
Yeah, I don't think anyone 20 years from now is going to be saying, "Oh man, I really miss Rock and Roller Coaster. It's just such a nostalgic ride." I mean, just loops and flips and stuff.
That's about it. I mean, yeah, I don't think if you ask people like, what did you see on Rock and Roller Coaster, they'd be like, ooh.
That's a great question.
A bunch
It
of
was a-
road signs.
Yeah.
Darkness.
Darkness.
Oh, the
I
darkness.
saw the shocker.
Yeah.
Same thing with Space Mountain. I mean, well, at least the Disney World version, I should say. But yeah, no, it's. I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. Like, yeah, I wish we had some of those rides because people will sit still and listen to a good story. I mean, in fact, that's another thing, and I didn't even mention this, and Kevin will probably speak on this a little bit more eloquently, is ImageWorks. The original ImageWorks was unbelievable. That was the other best part of the ride. So you get off the ride, and it's like this play area. And it's not like what you walk into now. Like their area was like upstairs, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's where the DVC lounge is. That's what the ImageWorks used to be. You could take the elevator stairs.
Rainbow Tunnel.
Rainbow tunnel. The colors would follow you as you're walking through. They had pin boards where you had colored lights on it and you can mess with it. These little pin boards where you press it and you can see your hand.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. That's right.
they had the conducting thing still, which is the same what they have now, and they had like the little stepping stone blocks that makes the sounds. They had all kind of stuff in there, even like acting studios.
Oh yeah, they would put you in the movie.
Yeah, they put you in a movie. There's one scene where you're in space and you were jumping onto the moon, that kind of stuff. It was,
Oh, wow.
It was basically a program to spark your imagination, is what it was. And there was so many different types of activities, which I loved going when I was a kid. So you hung out in that pavilion for a good long time.
And that's genius.
And it sounds lame by today's standards for sure, but back then when not everybody was walking around with a
phone.
computer in their pocket, yeah, it was next level. Like no one had laptops at home. No one had. This was like really cool technology. Now it's kind of like I got better stuff.
But I would encourage that now.
My kids would have today would have enjoyed that, because I tell you what, like they enjoy like the little play area post thing in Spaceship Earth. They like playing around with the stuff with that, from driving the car, doing different things. So I gotta imagine that they would have enjoyed the ImageWorks as it was when I grew up, and even the Communicores they would have enjoyed all
yeah.
those little activities.
Because I was gonna say, when you mentioned the thing with the pins and you put your hand down, I remember when I took my daughter a long time ago. I remember her just putting her face through it because the big thing to do is always put your face in it, then stick your tongue out so that they just
the pin,
acts
and
that.
it looks just like a face.
Yeah.
and they had huge tables of that.
That's sanitary.
Oh yeah, in today's
Didn't
COVID.
matter.
Well, you can't
Yeah.
tell a kid nothing while he's doing it, man.
That was back when germs didn't exist. Lee.
yeah.
Yeah,
There wasn't as many commercials about it, Lee.
That was before 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was past.
Well, I mean, too, like nowadays, it's just like you don't want to spend any time in the pavilions because you got to get to the next ride, and you got a fast pass.
well, that's
coming
by
up for it.
design too.
Yeah,
right?
keep it
Unfortunately.
moving.
That's by design.
And
Crowd
that's-
control.
That's why people want quicker things so they can see everything. So it's a double-edged sword because you can't really. I mean, who can really? How can you really have an experience in 5 minutes? I mean, it's.
I don't ask my husband.
He's got the mouse ears. He paid for everything.
He's got experience in 30 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, but that's it. But that's a good point in that now you're talking about what the level of experience is at the park when you don't have to rip and run. You enjoy what you're actually paying for, right? I mean, that's a nice sentiment. That's a nice throwback. And I think they should have more of that because, to be moving around and jumping around, that ain't fun for me, but I don't have 6 or 7 or 8 people to keep up with at the same time. But that was a fun thing for kids to sit down and do. You take your break, look at your phone if you're a parent, plot your next thing. That was a good breather if you were a parent back then.
Well, no, this is back before there was a phone.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You can look at your map.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talk to the other person.
The coolest thing in the Communicore was the video phone exhibit. You send your parent to the other side of the room, and you pick up the phone, and there's your parent right there talking to you while you're on the phone. Basically, it looked like a regular phone with a Watt TV, Sony Watchman attached to it.
Blew your mind. There was a robot that drew. That was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Like, and you would sit there and watch this robot arm draw. And now, you just open up your cell phone and there's a filter that does that.
Right.
And everybody looks like an aha video.
Yeah.
But back in that was really kind of cool to see. So I think that also had a part in it. Like, you were seeing things that you just couldn't see anywhere else. And now you're competing with, again, what most people are walking around with in their pocket.
So that's why we like Figment, right? Or love Figment. So that answers that part of the question. But the other part of your post, that's all that to say that I don't think you have to love Figment to be a Disney fan.
Yeah. I get that, but it's also like one of those things that okay, so we're of a certain age. Now, you guys grew up with this particular attraction, and so you have experience with it. But I'm sure, like, there's a lot of people right now that they see Figment or they see like the popcorn bucket or they see this and that and like, I'm supposed to like that. That's a Disney thing. Like, they probably never experienced it, just like I never experienced it. But it's sort of one of those things. It's like Disney's telling you, like, this is cool. If you're a Disney fan, you should like Figment because Figment's cool and blah 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 blah.
I can see what you're saying. If what you're saying is like, okay, people who like Figment and they've never experienced the original ride, I'm a little bit suspect of how they could love this Purple Dragon so much without having known it in their youth and really grown up with it. Like, if you're 30 or something like that and you're just now coming into knowledge of Figment, I guess I understand that to an extent.
People are allowed to like what they like. I'm not trying to down anyone or anything like that. It's just, again, it's a weird juxtaposition for me. It's like, how do you square that? It's like
weak mind.
I was gonna say, you can get upset with it if you want to. That's your.
You gotta let a corporate
Right.
entity dictate to you what you like and don't like, then God bless you.
Let my ex-wife dictate to me what I was supposed to like.
Even her.
Yeah.
There you go.
But no, like, dude, I totally understand it. I totally understand why you would have questions about it. I said it on the last show. It's like, I was disappointed when we watched D23 and there was no announcements about Imagination, where it's like, man, that dragon ain't going to mean much to many going forward if they don't do something with that ride to get people excited about it again.
Yeah.
Because the focus, again, it can't be on Figment. It's got to be on Imagination. And Figment's there, and he's interacting with the scenery, but he's not the focal point of the show, because then you got to give him some obnoxious personality that ruins it.
That's a good point.
The buffoon's the star.
Right, exactly. And so I totally understand why you would have those questions. And that's why I thought it was an interesting thing to talk about, because I could see why a lot of people who are new to Disney, or not even necessarily new to Disney, they've just been Disney fans since the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, maybe not the 90s. I'm sorry, 2000.
And again, so
2000
it's not like
onwards.
there was a cartoon out that they grew up with. You see what I'm saying? Like,
No,
like,
but
I
Figment
could see,
was on
like-
a cartoon.
No, but I'm saying, like, for me, example would be Dumbo. Like, when Dumbo came out, I wasn't alive, but my mom introduced me to Dumbo, and I grew up watching, Dumbo, and I had the little record, the little plastic records that you would get cheap that came free with the books and all this other stuff. So I had some kind of a
Connection.
yeah, even though I didn't go to Disney till I was like in my 30s, I still had that connection with Dumbo. So like that to me is like, okay, that's one of my favorite attractions, and not because it's so great. It's just like there's this lineage of growing up with Dumbo and all this other stuff. So that's why I like Dumbo. Okay, so cool, I get it. So, but if you never saw a cartoon of Figment and you didn't there wasn't like a Figment TV series that you watched when you were a kid, all you've seen is a popcorn bucket. how do you love Figment? You know what I'm saying?
I-
That's where I get. That's where
Well,
I
yeah,
kind of
that's,
come from.
and
That's
that's
totally
totally understandable. Yeah,
Right.
and I'd be curious to know why, if you've never seen the original, why you do like that character. I'd like to hear from people that just know that character as the current iteration, why that is part of.
It would be a mystery to
Love it.
me how people fall in love with this current iteration of Figment, except that the design, also the design is beautiful. It's a cute little character.
Yeah.
It's a cute little character. Yeah,
The personally, I could use some work in the new attraction, but I mean, it's a cute little character.
When you squeeze the character, does it fart?
I hope
it
not.
can.
That'd be a cool.
It squirts out milk duds.
My stuffed animal didn't, but oh yeah, it's like one of those little walking Figments.
Yeah. So yeah.
In the skunk suit. It's terrible. Oh my god! I mean, at least update the CGI. At least do something about that. that they do that. They could do that in a weekend.
Yeah, if they make She-Hulk twerk, they could do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna
Shoot,
get twerking Figment in a magnet.
Oh,
good
boy.
lord.
Oh, that'd be
Don't
fun.
give them any ideas.
No
They-
gas, though. No gas. No gas. No gas with twerk.
But Lee, I just want to let you know you don't have to like Figment to be a Disney fan.
Okay, thank you.
No,
I feel bad.
If you
I feel
don't
bad.
like Figment, I'm cool with that.
I totally agree
totally,
with that.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally cool with
Take
that.
that.
Look, again, and this is me going back. When I went back, like again, I had a long break from Disney. My first time going again was in 2001, and to walk in there and see Figment ride gone, food, the Kitchen Cabaret become Food Rocks. It was just a mockery of what the original attraction was. The hydrolators were out of Living with the Land. I mean, Epcot had really taken a terrible turn. So somewhere within 2000, I guess. It just all started falling apart. So I can more than understand why anybody growing up on this new version of Epcot. Now that they've made strides, they've fixed a lot of things, but they've also taken away a lot of great things.
I mean, I would just say on that, what you're saying is that, look, Disney has so much property and so many characters and so many different things. I mean, now more than ever, there's nothing wrong with saying what connected me to Disney was Dumbo or, Figment or whatever. I mean, because they're supposed to diversify, right? I mean, I think one of the things that would have attracted me to Disney at the very beginning was watching it on television and then, see a wonderful world of Disney, not even going to the park. So should I be judged because Figment wasn't the thing that gravitated me towards Disney as much as what I saw on the television show? No. The point is you're still a fan of the product. And if something brought you in that's different or the same, it shouldn't matter. There shouldn't be a degree of devotion to Disney in that.
Yeah, and I mean, shoot, I'll fight that all day.
Yeah.
What I just said?
No. What the people that
okay.
say that you have to like this to be a Disney fan?
'Cause,
It's like,
all
come-
right.
I'd say to
Yeah.
them, come at me. I'll be
'cause-
the yin to your yang.
Yeah, just give them
And
that hock.
I'll balance your power because that's how the world works.
They don't want a piece of you when you do the hock, and they ain't see
They
you
don't.
do the hock.
They don't.
Well, that's why
Yeah.
I still think that's why the pins do well. It's because maybe your character isn't represented on a T-shirt or in a ride, but oh my God, look on that pin right over there. There's Big Al, or there's some character that whoever it is that you grew up liking, you'll find them there, even if they're not represented in the parks. So I do like that aspect of the pins, even though I never got into the create. Yeah,
It's out there.
it's Disney's way of saying, yeah, there's something for everybody, and everybody's got their favorites. That's the first thing you do when you walk into that park. I think when you haven't been there in a long, long, long time, and you really don't know that much about it, and you're booking your once-in-a-lifetime trip, is you start looking for the stuff that you like. You book for what you like, And if you've got young kids and stuff like that, and they're big Beauty and the Beast fan, well, Enchanted Tales with Belle becomes more important than Seven Dwarfs Mine Train or Big Thunder Mountain or any of that. So,
Well, guys, look, this brings us to the end of our discussion. Of course, your opinions are always welcome on the show, so shoot us an email at show@magicarway.com and share your opinions. Why do you love Figment? What iteration of Figment do you like and why? Or why do you not like Figment? Or maybe what's your thoughts on what it means to be a Disney fan? Do you have to like a certain thing, one, this, that, or the other? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, show@magicarway.com, or you can call or send us a text at 1-815-MOWEEKEND. That's 1-815
no weekend.
669-4226. And of course, support us via Patreon. Go to patreon.com/magicourway, and you can visit magicourway.com to find all of our stuff, to find links to ivorycomics.com, to find Lee's address, lee@magicourway.com, to book your next Disney vacation so you can see the current iteration of Figment. Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, guys, On behalf of Danny, Eli, Lee, and myself, thanks for listening. Magic out.
Hey, it's Lee from the Magic Our Way podcast, and when I'm not stuffing tacos down my throat, I'm listening to the